The first edition of Weather for Weather Geeks in the new year. Happy 2017, everyone. Hope you had a good holiday weekend. My New Year's holiday weekend pretty good, except for the Buckeyes. Saturday night, that made me pretty grumpy. But otherwise, good start to the year. Our weather today was mild, but not that nice otherwise. We had this incessant drizzle and mist. You had to flip on your wipers and you weren't sure which intermittent setting to put them on, and it's just kind of one of those days today. But if you broke out your Storm Tracker 21 app or looked at a radar source of any kind, there was nothing on the radar all day, and that's pretty common in these drizzle, mist, and when it's cold enough, sometimes flurry situations. Here in the Mahoning Valley, we're roughly between the Cleveland radar and the Pittsburgh radar, roughly halfway between. And the radar beam leaves the radar. It's, whatever it is, 50 feet off the ground. But then the beam keeps climbing through the atmosphere as it goes farther away from the radar site, thanks to the curvature of the Earth. So by the time it gets overhead for most of our viewing area, whether it's the Pittsburgh or Cleveland radar, it's 3, 4, even 5,000 feet high. So if there's precipitation falling from well under that height, the radar is going to miss the precipitation. So the radar showed nothing today, but under that cloud deck, the ceilings today, the cloud ceilings were only 800 to 1,000 feet. When you're getting drizzle out of that, you're not going to see it on the radar. So it was one of those deceiving days today, and the radar's still deceiving this evening. Now, the rain and drizzle isn't quite as pronounced as it was earlier on today. Most places are not seeing much drizzle when I recorded this at 7:15 this evening. Big-time storms off to the south. Big severe weather day today. Pretty impressive by early January standards down along the Gulf Coast region, and that threat continues this evening with a couple of tornado watches still out. Panhandle of Florida, parts of Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama as well. Look at all these severe weather reports down in the deep south today. This started in Texas this morning and worked east. And as you can see, there have been a handful of tornado reports here in Mississippi over the last 12 hours. So not unheard of in that part of the country at this time of the year, but a little unusual. You oftentimes don't think of severe weather in early January. All right, the next thing we're going to see, aside from a little drizzle over the next several hours, is a big slug of rain from that storm system over the deep south. That's going to come our way tomorrow morning. Here's our high-res futurecast, drizzle for a time tonight. But then as we get into about daybreak, or maybe an hour or two after daybreak tomorrow morning, this slug of rain is going to come in from the south and west. And then it's just going to rain most of the day. Just, a lot of people heading back to work and school on Tuesday, and just plan on it being a soggy but mild day. We'll be in the 40s. There goes our cold front, and there goes the mild air for a while. We're back to hit or miss flurries Wednesday into Thursday. Notice the isobars are packed pretty close together here. This is going to be a windy day. I think our high temperature Wednesday will be at midnight, but during the daylight hours Wednesday, the warmest temperature will be right at daybreak. Temperatures will start around freezing and then slowly back off into the 20s. So a much, much different day on Wednesday. Thursday, clouds, sunny breaks, and maybe a flurry here and there as well. Pretty good drink of water here. This is a free car wash day on Tuesday. We're talking, our models are, pretty, consistent here, trying to advertise between a half an inch and 3/4 of an inch. The Europeans even pushing close to an inch. But half an inch to 2/3 of an inch, I think, is pretty reasonable for rainfall amounts during the day on Tuesday. All right, let me hop out of here, and we'll head over to the old GFS model here. I'm going to talk about the end of the week and the weekend. Not so much for our area, but for areas in the south. A lot of intrigue on the models. This is the GFS, which is advertising. Pretty quiet weather here on Friday. And then on Saturday, it has a pretty significant snow event, an ice event, for parts of the Carolinas, maybe Georgia, Tennessee Valley. But this is more than likely a miss for us. I don't want to take it off the table just yet, that this storm meanders far enough north to give us a little bit of snow over the weekend, but I think the odds are pretty low. This has more of a chance of being a problem for the mid-Atlantic region, and again, parts of the deep south. Now, the GFS is a little bit on its own here in its depiction of things. Other modeling, including the European, doesn't have quite as pronounced of a storm and a big problem down in the deep south. But we have friends or family in Charlotte, Raleigh, Atlanta. They'll have to keep a very close eye on this. But again, probably a miss for us. Stay tuned on that. This is Sunday. This just looks like a cold weather map. High pressure off to the southwest. Maybe a flurry around. Chilly breezes. But otherwise, the weekend should be fairly uneventful. It's going to be really cold at the end of this weekend. I've got highs in the lower 20s. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before we start to turn it around early next week. And if you've been following my posts today, if you saw my forecast on 21 News at 6, I've been talking about the January forecast. And what we'll see at the end of this week into the weekend is likely to be the exception for this January. I don't think we're going to see many Arctic outbreaks like the one we're going to have at the end of this week into the weekend. A lot of computer modeling showing a pretty consistently mild picture for the month of January as a whole. January, climatologically speaking, is our coldest month. The averages are at their lowest. But, again, relative to the averages, January looks pretty balmy, and it may end up even being warmer than the month of December was. And this was part of our winter forecast back around November 1st, about 2 months ago. We talked about how December could be kind of the worst period of the winter in terms of cold and snow. January might feature a little bit of a respite before February returns to a little more typical winter weather. So if you are not a snow lover, this is good news. If you like snow, if your business depends on snow, it's not looking so good as we go into the middle and latter portions of January. So, of course, we'll keep this forecast updated as we go through time. Thanks for watching the first Weather for Weather Geeks of 2017. Been doing these videos now for just about 4 years. It's amazing. Thanks, as always, for watching, and I'll see you back here for another edition of this video tomorrow night. In the meantime, check out my forecast tonight on 21 News at 11 o'clock.